What's up guys, how's it going? Today's video is a race review of the ROK Florida Winter Tour Round 3 at Ocala Grand Prix. Before we get into the video, obviously there's some pretty big news with the permanent closure of Ocala Grand Prix. This track has not only hosted so many amazing races over the years, but it's been home to so many great drivers as well. I can't speak for every driver, but this track has been a big part of my racing career. With that being said, I want to give a big thank you to all of the Ocala Grand Prix staff, past and present, and the community around that track. If it weren't for that racetrack, I would not be the driver I am today. I've done thousands upon thousands of laps around that place, and it's a track that I will never forget for the rest of my life. So big thank you to you guys for making my career what it is today. So a little bit of info on the race before we actually get into the video. Shortly before the final, it rained, and so it was a big question on whether to go out on rain tires or dry tires. In the end, we chose the dry tires, and so did the entire field, but the real question was, what tire pressure do you run in this race? Do you run the tire pressure you ran when it was dry, or do you bump it up to compensate for the wet track? So before we get into the video, I just wanted to let you guys know that that's one thing that's on my mind before I even start the race. I want to try and figure out what pressures everybody else is on and where I'm going to be strong during this race. So with that being said, let's get started on the video. So pulling up to the green flag, and I started on pole quite a few times this week, so I know where the flagman likes to throw the green. He likes to throw it pretty late, but he lets us accelerate pretty early, so you can see there I get on the gas pretty early. That was just to try and keep the guy in second place up to my outside. If I can get a jump, going into turn one, normally you can run wide like I did, and that kind of blocks the second place driver from getting a good run on you going down into turn 4 here. I didn't block. I looked back coming out of turn 3, and I noticed that I had a good enough gap, and so it was really important for me to just kind of put in laps and try and stretch out that lead. So I look over my shoulder in the middle of the corner here just to see where the competition is, and I have a decent gap, going into this last corner, and I know that, okay, I have the speed this week. If I can just put in some laps, I can stretch it out. I look back though right there, and I realize that the driver closed quite a bit in just one corner alone, and so I'm going, okay, he's probably on a bit higher tire pressure at this point, and I need to make sure I can stay in front of him until my tires get up to temperature. Didn't block into this corner. I didn't think he was going to be close enough, but he threw it in late. It was a good move by him because obviously, I had speed during the whole week, and so he wants to make it a race early on. And so I'm going to try and go back with that same energy, throw it in late here, just to try and get back in front of him, but unfortunately there's water on the inside of the racetrack, and that kind of messed me up. There's a driver behind me at this point. That wasn't the best move that I made because that obviously widened the gap that was already there, and then now I'm getting passed by another driver. Tried to defend a little bit, but he was there, so I had to give it to him. And at this point, I'm realizing, okay, I'm on the lower tire pressure of all these guys, which isn't bad for this racetrack. Because you go around so fast, you can build heat in the tires pretty quick. But I know that, I'm going to be strong at the end of this race and not initially. At this point, I need to just get in a rhythm around here and put in some laps just to get some heat in the tires. The biggest thing about Ocala is there's more time to gain in consistency than there is in just like going out there and trying to do your best lap time. So I know if I can get in the rhythm and can just put in some laps, I can close that gap. Even though it's quite a big gap already, I can close that gap by the end of this race. Looking at the 329, and I'm starting to get some heat in my tires, so I'm closing that gap, and I'm able to stay with him a little bit more than I was in the beginning. He's running a little bit wider out of that corner, and I'm able to gain time going into the next corner. And so I'm looking and going, okay, maybe, my tires are getting up to pressure. So I'm looking at this and going, okay, he's not fast enough to catch the leader in first, and so I need to get by and start putting him in laps because I'm getting held up by him. Even though it's not that much right now, that little bit in every corner that I'm having to check up is not helping my lap time overall, and so it's time to go by. He pulls a little bit there on the end of the straightaway, and so I'm going, okay, maybe he's on a lower tooth than I am. Coming out of the last corner, I get a good run there, go down to the inside. I didn't even feel like I needed to block because I knew I had a little bit stronger acceleration than he did, and so didn't feel like it was necessary. I figured he would want me to try and run down the leader and not waste that much time considering he already has such a big gap as it is. And so he didn't pass me back, and I was able to just put in some laps from this point on. I'm going to skip to where it gets interesting, the race gets more exciting. But yeah, at this point, trying to put in that lap, trying to just do as good of a job I can at staying consistent and not making mistakes. The track goes around so fast, so you can pick up a second in 10 laps, which really isn't that long. I mean, the track's only 30-something seconds long, and so you can pick up a second in 5 minutes, which is pretty quick. So I'm looking at it and I'm trying to gauge, where he is on the racetrack, and I've got markers around this track that I use. Going out into this corner here, I'm looking at it and going, okay, I'm closing a little bit, and I think I can make that gap up. I'm going to try and push really hard right now. Not hard enough that I overheat the tires, but I'm going to give it all that I have, because this is the only shot that I have at this race. If I don't catch them, then it's over. And so I'm going to put in some laps, try and get some heat in the tires, and just hit my marks and go as fast as I can to close that gap. So 8 or 9 laps have gone by, and I've caught the leader finally. There's a few laps where I caught him, but we just kind of maintained. I was making a few mistakes, so I knew that if I could minimize those mistakes, I could get in front of him, get a good run out of here, throw it to the inside, late pass, and then he just kind of hits me in the center of the corner there, and that runs me wide. Kind of sucks because I did have the spot, but that little contact there did, open the gap back up, and it made me slide off the corner, which didn't help my acceleration, obviously. And so now the gap's open again, and I've got to run it back down again. And so unfortunately that happened, and that's the race that he wants to race. So let's go and let's try and close that gap and try and make up the time from this point on. Closing, going into the corners there, and I'm driving really hard at this point. I'm not really concerned about the tire pressure. I know that I have the superior kart. I'm looking at it and seeing he's got to run wider off these corners, so his engine's not coming off the corner like he likes, so he's having to use extra racetrack. So I'm looking, going, okay, I think I have the superior kart. Let's push. Let's get this this gap closed, and let's try and make this a race, and let's try and do something in these last couple laps, because I know the race is coming to an end really soon here, and so we're running out of time. So we're back on his bumper again. Coming out of turn 3 there, I lost a little bit, so I wasn't able to go in that hairpin like I did the lap before, but I'm going to go in this next right-hander right here, throw it in really late, kind of went over the curb. I knew that would be a better spot to go because it's harder to over-under somebody out of that corner. Block going into the second to last corner here. He's still behind me, he gets a good run on the outside. He gives me the space though on the inside, and so I get back down to the inside there. I clip the curb, and basically that's what messed me up in that corner, because that allowed him to get back down to the inside. I pinch him as hard as I can, but once he's there, and so I can't really do much more after that. He's blocking, braking early, and right here I get passed for a second there, and that was unfortunate because trying to set him up to get a good run off the corner, and then I got passed. And that's what happens. You got to keep your head on a swivel in those positions, because when you're in this sandwich between drivers, you got to know where the guys are behind you. They all block. I do a nice move over the curb here and get that position back, and so now I'm back in second place. And it's hard around Ocala to make a pass when the leader is blocking, because it's such a low speed track. It's hard to get the engine fast enough off the corner to pass them around the outside, or pass them going into the next corner. So he's going to block every corner after this, and you're kind of just in a spot where you got to follow him through. Like I was saying in the previous lap, that when there's a driver behind you, you've got to know where they are and know how to get around it, without losing another spot as well. And so basically I'm caught in this position where I can't really set up for the corner to try and pass him, because I have a driver behind me that'll pass me if I do that. So going to the last corner here, he brakes super early, so I probably could have done a little bit more to kind of move him off the racing line there, but I ended up losing some more time anyways because of it. I ended up in third. That bump I got in the center there that I drove over the curb, that's what caused me to lose a lot of speed off the last corner, and that's what caused me to get third. Frustrating race. I'm not sure what I should have done in that last corner there. He broke pretty early, and so I could have gotten away with maybe a little bit of a move to run him off the racing line, but in the end you're leaving it up to the stewards, and at that point it's not real racing. You don't want to leave a race up to the officials and then it just be called something else. And so I figured my best bet was to stay behind and maybe do something on the exit of the corner. But unfortunately, I got a little sideways there in the center of the corner, and that really killed my run, and I had no shot of it after that. Thank you guys for watching the video. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Comment what you guys think I should have done in that last corner there. Should I have moved him? Should I have stayed behind? Should I have been a clean driver or a dirty driver, basically is what it comes down to. Like I said, it's always a hard position to be in when you want to leave a race up to the stewards. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and on Facebook. That's where you get any updates on my karting career. Once again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you at the next one.